Good morning.
Morning, everyone.
How you doing?
Hey, Chris. How are you?
So good. What day is it? Wednesday.
Yeah,
I'm doing
feels
great.
like Thursday. Morning, Eric. Morning, Michael.
Morning.
How are you guys?
Good, how about you?
Hey, Robin. So, Chris, I don't know if you ever met Michael and Robin before. So, okay, now, so they over in Batavia, so about 40 minutes west of Rochester over here. Just awesome partners of JP Morgan and us. So we're super excited to be on here with you guys. Thanks again, Michael and Robin, for coordinating.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me. My very favorite thing, 529s.
A busy month for you. It's
Yeah.
you're gonna need a vacation after May, Chris.
I think so. In fact, I'm going to take the first week of June off because my kiddos are out of school.
Oh, great.
And that came much faster than I thought I was going to. So like this morning when I asked what day is it, everything's blending together right now. I don't know if you guys feel that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I sure do. I definitely do. Where do you think you'll head anywhere, or just sort of a staycation?
It's a staycation.
Nice. Sometimes
That's
the
okay.
best.
Yeah. I got in my backyard. I just lay out for a little bit and read a book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's getting nice up here this week. It's Michael, is it over 60s over by you?
Not yet.
Well, it's gonna be mid 60s in Rochester today and the rest of the week. So we're pretty excited about that.
It's cold here in Columbus. I think it's in the 40s this morning. And my 13-year-old wanted to go out in shorts, of course, because, it could be 20 and he'll go out in shorts.
Yep.
So I made him put a
It's
little
cold
sweatshirt on.
I was
Is it
like,
cold?
this is crazy May weather. It's too cold for me.
I agree.
Yeah.
So Michael, are Kelly and Eric your clients?
Kelly and Eric run the chamber.
Oh, great. Hi,
Good
guys.
morning.
So nice to meet you. Good morning.
You too. You're in Columbus, Ohio?
I am
Oh, okay.
home of the Buckeyes.
Aha.
You won't hold that against you.
Right.
It's my alma mater.
Shut
I
my
was born
door.
and raised here. Haven't moved.
Home of the Buckeyes, and apparently the best dessert treat ever, which is a Buckeye too, which I learned about yesterday.
Yep.
Have you ever, Michael, have you ever had one?
Yeah.
Did you watch Fox
Buckeye.
and Friends?
Oh, see, maybe I've just been missing out. I don't know.
Chocolate.
We were talking
chocolate
about
chop
Buckeyes
peanut butter, right?
yesterday.
Yeah. So the little peanut butter balls and then you dip them in
Awesome.
chocolate. So good. So that was on Fox and Friends, Robin?
Well, they were talking about Buckeyes and what Buckeyes were.
Today?
Like chestnuts or something like that, right?
One tough knot,
Oh.
that's what they say.
Yeah.
The real Buckeye is a poisonous nut.
Ah,
Yeah.
good thing to know.
Yeah. Not sure why it's our mascot, but that's okay. And Brutus is just a big Buckeye head, our mascot.
Cool.
So he's poisonous.
Eric loves mascots, right, Eric?
And my goal, one of my bucket list things was to be a mascot.
Really?
Yeah, and I used to run the United Way, and we were doing our United Way campaign at Genesee Community College, and they're the Cougars. And it just so happened that for our kickoff celebration, the person who was supposed to be the Cougar was sick, so I threw the outfit on. And let me tell you what, it's extremely overrated. It was not fun. It was hot. It was gross. Like, it wasn't. The only good part about it is, the mascots have a natural smile, so it doesn't matter how mad you are underneath, you're smiling on the outside. So we've got 7 people registered, that, not including us, none of who are on yet. So
Okay.
typically we get about a 60 to 70% success rate with folks who register actually coming on. So we'll see. It's a few more minutes still.
Okay, great.
Perfect.
And then Michael, did you want me to share my screen if I might have host rights, or do you want me to send you?
You
the
should be able to do that.
Oh,
Just
great. Okay.
Try
Do
it
want
if you
me
want to.
I can wait if you want, and that way you guys are big when we first start, or I can,
Okay, yeah, I'm not very fluent with Zoom, but I do have it set so that multiple people can share, so you should be able to.
okay, perfect. Thank you, Eric.
Mhm.
Yep, it's giving me that. It's
Okay.
giving me share rights, so we're good.
I have a 500-piece mailing that needs to go out today, so excuse me, I'm folding right now. If you don't mind, I am listening. I am listening. And I will stop, but I just want to get ahead of the curve. Hi, Michael.
Potato.
Hello, Kelly.
Hello.
My computer's slow this morning.
So am I.
Sure, blame it on the computer, Mike.
Not me. My camera doesn't want to work. What's happening, gang?
All right, Mike.
Good, good. Mr. Marsh, Robin, how are you?
Hi, Michael.
And how many financial people can you fit in one square
Got room for two more.
room for two more? There we go.
We are.
They're all a little bit different.
Michael, did you want me to introduce Chris up front, or you have the bio and everything you need?
I can leave it to you if you don't mind.
Sure.
You give me the chance not to speak, I'll take it.
Of course. Yeah, no problem, man. Be happy to.
Behind the scenes type of guy, huh, Michael?
Yeah,
Like Marsh.
Connor, we usually do a quick intro for everybody on these
Perfect.
as we do them,
Yeah, no. You kick it over to me whenever you like, Eric.
and then I'll kick it over to you. Yeah,
That's perfect.
once I can figure out what's going on my screen. What the-
Turn off the radio.
Morning, Danielle.
Connecting.
I hope Danielle's not a financial advisor.
morning,
I am
Daniel.
not.
Hi, Danielle.
Hi, I recognize a few faces. Hi, Michael.
Morning.
I got 9:01. We'll give people one more minute and then we'll get started, and I'll just keep adding people in as they come.
Sounds good.
All right, let's get going, folks. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Morning.
Welcome to the Chamber's monthly, what has become Zoom seminars. My name is Eric Fix. I'm the new president of the Chamber of Commerce here in Genesee County. I want to welcome everybody to today's call. Mostly we have financial advisors on the call, but we'll go around still and introduce ourselves, and then we'll turn the presentation over to you guys. So again, I mentioned who I am, Eric Fix, President of Chamber of Commerce. I'll just go across my screen. Chris, I have you first up in the corner.
Perfect. Good morning, everybody. I'm Chris Adrian. I'm the National 529 Specialist for JP Morgan, and very happy to be in front of all of you today. I'm actually hosting from Columbus, Ohio, home of the Buckeyes, and a very chilly day today. I'm ready for some summer weather.
I think we all are.
Yeah.
Connor, go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. My name is Connor Fitzgerald. I am one of Chris's colleagues over at JP Morgan. I cover all of upstate New York for JP Morgan, and I've had the pleasure of working with Michael and Robin for a number of years now, and just excited to be here. Thank you all for having us. Chris is definitely the star of the show, but appreciate you having us both on.
Michael Marsh.
Morning. I think I know pretty much everyone here. But yeah, just working with the chamber to get this benefit in place for any members. It's a great savings tool that now has a lower cost, thanks to the chamber. So.
Robin.
Well, I'm Robin. I work with Michael. I'm the branch administrator, and just to echo what Michael said, just I take care of some of the admin stuff for him, and I think it's a great opportunity to get our kids ready for college.
Mike Battaglia. Michael, sorry.
Oh, there we go.
My unmute is not unmuting. Yeah, Mike Tagley, Equitable Advisors. Yeah, familiar with everybody on the call. Connor, I have spoke with you a couple times. Krista, I haven't met you yet, but looking forward to it. But that's it.
And Danielle.
Good morning. Maybe I'm a little out of place with this call, but I am about to have 2 kids in college. So anytime I see anything about 529, I want to know more about it. I am a client of Mr. Marsh. So yeah, I'm just here to learn whatever I can. And thank you, Robin and Michael, for always helping me out with stuff. Thank you.
Danielle, you're not out of place. You're actually what this whole thing is for. So
Yeah.
you're
All
very
right.
much in place. And as I
Good.
mentioned, we do have about 5 or 6 other folks that registered that haven't popped on yet. So they may as we get going. I too have 3 children who are about to enter college. So this is very interesting and important to me. I feel like I'm very well behind the 8 ball in that category, but hopefully we can figure something out. So I guess Connor's going to kind of take over and do some further intros. So I'll turn it over to you guys.
Yeah, perfect, Eric. Well, thank you, everybody. Again, it's a pleasure to be here. So I'll just do a quick introduction for my colleague, Chris Adrian, who mentioned to you that she is JP Morgan's 529 specialist for all of JP Morgan Asset Management. And so to give you a feel for what that means, under normal times, Chris will spend a lot of time traveling around the country, educating clients and advisors on college planning. And then of course, the advisor guided 529 plan, which JP Morgan runs for New York. And then she is a really important part of this piece that we're going to share with you today, which is our college planning essentials, which is an amazing tool that you could share with family and friends. So many eye-opening things in here that I've learned from Chris. In fact, the first time I heard it, I don't have any kids yet, but I am getting married this year after a really long engagement because of COVID. And so we already opened up a 529 just because of some of the really shocking statistics that Chris has shared with us as we've gone through this before. So you'll hear some really neat things here, but I think most importantly, we want to make sure that everybody walks away, having everything answered that they would have liked to today. Chris will hit upon the benefits of the group plan as well, but Yeah, thank you again for having us. And Chris, we really appreciate the insight as always, and I will kick it over to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Hopefully you guys are able to see this, and let me move it over a little bit. Actually, I'm going to pull it over here. And I'll make it bigger. Everybody see that okay on your screen?
It's just
That look
loading
good?
right now, Chris.
Okay.
There's a dial spinning in the middle right now.
Oh, okay. So let me hit resume share. How's that?
Yeah, great.
Okay, perfect. So thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to meet all of you. I'm so happy to talk about my very favorite thing, which is college planning. It's my one thing. I've actually done this for 7 years. As Connor mentioned, it's usually across the country. So I'm very happy that for the last year, I've actually spent a lot more time with both of my kids. And that being said, I wanted to share my very favorite slide in the entire deck. And that's my own 2 529 beneficiaries. It's my daughter, Kate, on the left. And Kate is reading, excuse me, the principles of real estate syndication. Let me grab a quick swig of my coffee here. Sorry, I get all verklempt when I talk about my own kids. So anyway, Kate on the left is reading the principles of real estate syndication. That was actually a gift from her grandpa. And he's very, very hopeful that one day she'll take over his real estate business here in Columbus. And then my son, Joe, on the right has his hands up in the air. He's actually at The Ohio State University, which is my alma mater. Don't hold it against me. But for Joe, he actually had just met Brutus the Buckeye, who is the mascot for Ohio State. That's a really big deal. And Joe is an excellent golfer. He's actually been playing golf since he was big enough to swing a club. And his dad is actually a teaching pro, not a touring pro. But for both of my kids, they've actually been playing golf since they were big enough to swing a golf club. So we have very high hopes for both of our kids that they might receive full ride scholarships, fingers crossed. But that being said, I definitely wanted to talk about what is near and dear to my heart, and that is college planning. So today I'm going to review a few charts, but the first one I wanted to go into is what's top of mind for all of us, and that is COVID and beyond. So how will COVID impact college today and in the future? We've created this great chart to help illustrate what has happened over the last year. So if you look at the top, not surprisingly, enrollment declined across the board. And for incoming freshmen, especially if you look off to the right here, we saw that many of them across the country were taking a gap year. And that's because a lot of them didn't want to have to do remote learning, but still pay full boat for tuition. So not surprisingly, for a 4-year public school, there in purple, enrollment was down 10.5% last year. And for a 2-year public school, for a community college, down almost 20% last year. Some good news, or a little silver lining out of all that, is off to the right, 79% of high school seniors were accepted into their first choice college. So for many high school seniors, that's unusual. Many of them are not accepted into their first choice, and that was some good news in the last year. And then at the bottom, some potential impacts that we see beyond. And the big one is the SAT and ACT testing. As many of you know, 87% of colleges said that they don't mind if you don't submit SAT or ACT scores this year. And a lot of them, for the foreseeable future, will no longer require that you have to take the SAT or the ACT score test, excuse me. In the middle, 28% of colleges are actually lowering their college admissions. We do expect that that will proceed for the next year. And then as soon as things normalize, probably go back to higher admission standards. And then on the on the bottom right, what you'll notice, unfortunately, is that 58% of colleges do expect that they're going to keep costs the same or even increase them over the next few years. And that's because they have to offset all of the revenue that they've lost over the last year. So those are some potential impacts of COVID in the near future. And the biggest question that I typically get throughout the country is, Chris, with the extraordinarily high costs of college, is it even worth it to get a college degree today? So I really like this particular slide for that, because it helps illustrate average annual earnings by degree. So if you look across the bottom of the page, a high school graduate on average earns $39,000 this year. Someone with a bachelor's degree there in the middle earns $73,000 this year. And those with a professional degree or an advanced degree earn about $152,000 this year. And what I think is really extraordinary, if you look in the little circles, those with a bachelor's degree earn 86% more than a high school graduate. And those with a professional degree earn 288% more than a high school graduate. So we definitely believe that getting a degree pays off, and especially for those higher lifetime earnings can really make a big difference. So I wanted to get into the costs of college. And one of the biggest problems throughout the country that we have is tuition inflation. And what you'll notice on this particular page is that tuition is listed across the bottom in blue. It is the fastest growing household expense in the country today. So this data goes back 4 decades. Tuition inflation has grown 822% over that time horizon. And just to put that into context, we have other common household expenses on the same page. Coffee, which is my favorite, the inflation there is only 96% over that same time horizon. I feel like every time I go into a Starbucks, they're increasing prices again. I'll still pay it because I love it. But if you look at the inflation effect, tuition inflation dwarfs every other common household expense on this page. If you look in the bottom right, in the little gray box, tuition increases about 6% every year. So it's really important for us to think about not just saving for college in a checking or a savings account, but investing for college just to keep up with tuition inflation. And that's why this particular page looks so scary, and why Connor mentioned that he's already starting to plan for future family, which I love. So this is future 4-year college costs. And the way to read it is to find your child's age today across the bottom of the page. Danielle, you had mentioned that you've got some that are entering college, or maybe you're in college already. So that'll be on the far left here. And Eric, I think you had mentioned that as well. So what I wanted to help highlight is that the purple bar is 4 years all in at an in-state public school, and the blue bar is 4 years all in at a private school. So especially for a newborn, the far right here, really daunting numbers, 230,000 for 4 years of in-state school and 526,000 for 4 years of private school. I think the important thing with this particular slide is to know what your family's number might look like. And if you can cover just a percentage of it, that's great. That's less than your child has to take out in way of student loans. And one thing that we can definitely help with is to determine how much each month or quarter you might need to put in to achieve that goal. So I like this page, not because it's scary, but because it's a great way to know what is your number. The next segment I wanted to get into is financial aid. And for a lot of families across the country, we often hear, Chris, my child's a genius. They're going to get a full ride. I'm really not worried about those costs of college. I had talked earlier about how Joe is a great golfer, and my husband is convinced that my son Joe is going to get a full ride. He's too young right now to really know. But what I really love about this particular page is in the upper right here, 0.3%. That's the average of all college students across the country who actually receive a full ride for college. Did any of you guys receive a full ride? No, okay. The probability is so small, 0.3. So we actually have what are called kitchen chats, where we take this little book, and I'm very nerdy, so I make my kids sit down at my kitchen table and we'll talk about these slides. And that particular stat I point to and I tell my husband, we should invest for college just in case. And if they do get a scholarship, that'd be great. But 0.3 is pretty small. So at the top, I definitely wanted to help highlight the grant reality. And grants are typically need-based. They're usually reserved for families who make income of $60,000 or less during the calendar year. But for those who are eligible, some good news, 48% of families across the country get them. It's about $6,000 on average each year. And if you look in the little tiny circles off to the right there, I know they're small, it should cover about 9% of an average four-year public school. And at the bottom, you have the scholarship reality in green. What I love about scholarships is that anybody is eligible. They are merit-based. Also, some great news there, 58% of families receive scholarships each year, just under $8,000 annually. And again, if you look in the little tiny circle off to the right, should cover about 12% of an average four-year public school. So the whole concept here is, while 9% of grants and 12% of scholarships will help cover those costs, how do we help fund the other percentage? The next thing I wanted to get into is the FAFSA. And Danielle and Eric, maybe you've already started to fill these out. The FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid. And we encourage families to fill it out, even if they think they might not be eligible for financial aid. It does open as early as October 1st, in the year before your student goes off to college. And a lot of families have really no idea what the formula is. So we've demystified that by putting the formula here on the page. What the federal government is trying to figure out is your expected family contribution, or your EFC for short. How much is your family going to be able to pay out of pocket? And how much are they going to be able to provide in way of an aid package? So it's really the two major buckets here in the middle of the page, the parents bucket on the left, and parents' income is actually the biggest driver of the entire aid formula. You'll notice that parents' income is a sliding scale, anywhere from 22 to 47%. If you're in a lower income tax bracket, it's the 22. And if you're in a higher income tax bracket, it's the 47. And there is a protected amount. It's usually about $8,000 for most families that is taken off of that as well. And then most importantly, parent assets are only up to 5.64% of the entire formula. So really small percentage. If you are investing for college in a 529, or if you have money in a non-taxable account or a checking or a savings account, it's all going to count the same. And that's 5.64%. And then I also wanted to direct you to the students bucket here on the right. Students' income is 50% of the formula. It is protected to almost $7,000, so that's good news. And then student assets are 20% of the formula. So if you have any custodial accounts, which are called UGMAs or UPMAs, or CDs in the student's name, those will be 20% of the formula. And then at the very bottom, you'll notice that grandparents and others are 0%. And a lot of people raise their hand here and say, is that the loophole? And it's true, when grandma and grandpa hold a 529 plan, it does not get counted in the FAFSA. And up until December of this last year, grandma and grandpa used to have to count it 2 years later as a student resource, and it would ding the student at 50%. In December of this past year, there was something called FAFSA simplification that was passed, and that actually eliminates grandparents completely from the formula. So it no longer has to be counted 2 years later. That's some good news for FAFSA, especially for grandparents. The other big change that FAFSA is making is in 2 years, in the year 2023, if you have multiple children in college at the same time, it's no longer a benefit. So it used to be that your expected family contribution would be reduced if you had multiple kids in college at the same time. In 2023, they're going to eliminate that clause. So unfortunately for a lot of families, their expected family contribution is going to go up. So that was kind of some bummer news with the FAFSA. The next part I wanted to go into is the solution. And that's the benefits of compounding. As long as you have time on your side, you can certainly make a big difference. And I'll also say that it's never too late to get started to invest for college. So what this chart helps illustrate is, especially for Connor, since he's already starting, that if you've got a best case scenario where you start at birth and you put in $100, $250, or $500 a month, 500 is the green. If you have that best case scenario of 18 years worth of investments, you can save 191,000 over that time horizon. So this assumes a 6% rate of return, but that 191,000 is kind of a magic number because that will pay for nearly 4 years of in-state public school 18 years from now. And then if you start when the child is age 6, those are the middle buckets there. And if you start when the child is age 12, those are the far right buckets there. So I actually started when my kids were a little bit older. I got a late start myself, and I accelerated it a little bit by not having a car payment for a while. I drove a really old Honda Accord, and I told my husband, I'm willing to do that because I want to keep socking money away into my kids' college accounts. But unfortunately, I had to buy a new car, but we're still trying to figure out ways. The Starbucks coffee, I've eliminated that completely from my daily routine. That helped a little bit. But for us, we're trying to catch up and make the most we can of our investments. So that brings me to the 529 plan. And for many of you, you may already know what these are, but just wanted to highlight the 3 major benefits listed here at the top. Some amazing tax advantages. So a 529 is very much like a Roth IRA. It's after-tax dollars that get invested. It grows tax deferred. And as long as you use the money for college or vocational school in the future, all of the earnings come back to you tax-free. All of the earnings are tax-free. And then within the state of New York, you've got some amazing state tax deductions as well. So for an individual tax filer, you can deduct up to $5,000 on your taxes. And if you're married filing jointly, you can deduct up to $10,000 on your taxes each calendar year. And that's actually one of the most generous state tax deductions across the country. So that's some good news. The second major benefit listed here is the estate planning benefit. And that gets into the accelerated gift. So within 529s, and only within a 529, can you do something really special? And it's called an accelerated gift. It's where you can take this year's annual gift limit of $15,000 per child and multiply it by 5. So an individual tax filer can gift up to $75,000 gift tax free, and a married couple filing jointly can gift up to $150,000 gift tax free. We typically see that with grandparents who have the means to do it and love their grandkids so much that they want to give them the gift of education. But it's really unique, and it's something that removes that money from their estate completely, but also allows them to have that power of compounding occur right away. And then the third major benefit is the control and the flexibility. So the account owner of a 529 always maintains full control. And even when the child reaches the age of majority, they can't take that money out. So we call that the Hurley versus Harvard effect, where the child can't run off and buy a Hurley. It has to be used for Harvard, hopefully. And then lastly, the flexibility part. And that's where within a 529, you have a beneficiary on the account. That beneficiary can be changed at any time up to first cousin. So pretty long family line. If my son Joe does get a full ride playing golf, I hope he does, I can pass his balance to his baby sister Kate. And I can actually do that up to their first cousins and keep passing it down to future generations. So pretty flexible that way. And the last thing I wanted to point out is that we have a bunch of qualified education expenses listed here on the right, and pretty extensive: tuition and fees, the room and board, books and supplies, special services. So if you need special tutoring for your child, that's where that counts. And then computers and related equipment. So if you need to buy a laptop or a printer, those are all going to be encompassed in that bucket. The other 3 that are listed here at the bottom in green, which are student loan payments, K through 12 tuition, and apprenticeship programs, those passed at the federal level a couple of years ago. Unfortunately, they didn't pass at the New York level, which is why I kept those in green, because if you take money out for any of those 3, the state of New York actually dings you by recapturing any state tax deduction that you've taken. So just wanted to caution that there's definitely been some articles about those three and how they've made 529s more flexible. But in the state of New York, you'll actually get dinged a little bit if you take money out. And then lastly, I wanted to cover, and I think Danielle and Eric, this might be really good for you guys if you haven't already done this. At the upper right here, we have a list of grants and scholarship websites. And the big popular one this year is goingnary.com. What I love about these particular sites is you can set up an online profile for your child with a username and password, and it will actually help you match grants and scholarships that might be a good fit for your child. Remember when I was a senior in high school, my mom always sat me down at the table and would make me handwrite a scholarship application each Sunday. I hated it. It was awful because you had to handwrite all the essays. I did get 10 grand in scholarships, so I guess it was worth it. But now it's completely online. So a lot of these websites allow your child to go in and create that online profile with a password and cut and paste essay questions. So much easier today than it used to be. And the same with the FAFSA. The FAFSA actually created an app. So there's an app for everything now. And you can actually apply for FAFSA on the app. So hopefully that gives you guys some really good ideas around the cost of college, financial aid, what that formula looks like for the FAFSA, and hopefully some great scholarship websites. And then lastly, we went through the 529 basics and what those big benefits are. So I'm so happy to talk with each of you. Thank you so much for giving me the spotlight this morning. And are there any questions I can help address, or would there be time for questions? I'm sorry, Michael, I forgot to ask. Okay, great.
Could you just cover real quick the benefits of the group plan that the chamber is now allowed for Genesee County?
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that. Thank you, Michael. So the group plan is a really special feature that's available for businesses and groups, and it allows you to buy into the New York Advisor Guided Plan without charge. So usually an investor in the plan pays 4.5% upfront for each purchase. That's completely waived to zero. So really special benefit that the chamber has signed off on for each of its members to invest if they'd like in the advisor guided plan without that front end charge. So it's a really big savings and hopefully makes investing for college a little bit more affordable for your members. Does that help, Michael?
Just wanted to mention, yeah, any businesses that are members, any employee can take advantage of this with their current brokerage firm or advisor. The chamber has the sheet pre-filled, and then that way all the firm has to do is request it from them. They fill out their information, send it into JP Morgan, who issues them an ID number. But then that ID number can be used for any clients, so that way they receive the deduction now, or the waived sales charges.
Yep. It's actually one of my favorite features that the plan offers, because I think it just helps make it more affordable for a lot of families if they don't have to pay that sales charge on the front.
Chris, you hit on this a little bit, but could I ask you to maybe just sort of revisit the benefits of using like an active manager like JP Morgan to run 529s, and what we've seen in terms of performance over time?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Connor. So the New York Advisor Guided Plan, as Connor had mentioned at the front end, is managed by JP Morgan Asset Management. There's also a second plan for the state of New York. It's run by Vanguard, and also a very good plan. The difference between the two is that JP Morgan runs these portfolio models actively. And active means that they're always looking for market opportunity within the portfolios. Vanguard runs theirs passively, and that means that they're invested in index products, and that's okay. They're usually a little bit cheaper in costs, but that active management, we think, is the hallmark of our plan. And especially during the COVID environment, where the markets were really selling off, our portfolio managers were able to take a little bit of risk off of the portfolios and invest in things like bonds and help protect a little bit on that downside when the market was selling off. And then in April, when the market started to rebound again, they were able to put risk back on and help capture some of that up capture in the market or that market participation. So it's that active and nimble movement within the JP Morgan portfolios that make it very different than any other 529 plan across the country. And something like Vanguard, the allocation that you had in January is almost identical to the allocation that you see in December. So they don't make those active shifts throughout the year. And I think especially during that COVID environment, that really helped us with our performance because we were able to take some of that risk off of the table and hopefully provide better performance for clients. So that's the big difference between the two for the state of New York.
Perfect. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, thanks, Connor.
And I'd like to put out there, I mean, I just ran some quick numbers. Of course, past results don't guarantee future anything. But if someone were to put $100 a month for the past 18 years into JP Morgan's large cap growth fund, and then again, not saying that this is appropriate for everyone, but 21,600 out of pocket over the 18 years would be roughly 102,000 with the growth. But the benefit I wanted to run is by eliminating the sales charge, 21.6 out of pocket would be roughly 107,790. So over 5,000 more in growth by saving the upfront sales charge that you won't have to do through the group plan.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for running those numbers, Michael.
And as Michael mentioned, we do have those forms available right here at the chamber. So anybody can just contact us over here and we can provide them with that. And then they can take it to, my understanding is whatever financial advisor they are currently working with. So they have that option.
And the benefit really is phenomenal. I mean, so like Mike, if you have any clients that are members or chamber members, but I mean, I'll use the example of the school. The school is a member of the chamber. I don't know how many employees and staff they have on hand with the school district. I imagine it's easily over 1,000, but each one of those people can now use this because their business is a member of the chamber. So they can use this for college savings. So, and that goes for any members of the chamber.
If the school decides to use it for their 1,000 people, I'm going to charge them for copies though.
I think that's fair. Any other questions this morning?
I just want to take a second to thank you guys, Chris. That was an outstanding presentation. I learned a lot going into this process. I sat in my first college recruiting webinar, I think 2 weeks ago, and scared the bejesus out of me. And you just did that again. So
I'm sorry. So sorry,
I
Eric.
appreciate you guys coming on board. You know that we do monthly right now web seminars. Next month, we're working on a 3-part series for reopening and what that's going to look like. And we're in the early preliminary stages, but this first one we're going to tackle is special events coordination and how the new requirements from New York State are going to have an effect on that and who's doing what, how, and why in regards to special events, because we know a lot of our members are looking to get back to doing what we normally did as far as golf outings, and we've got our home show that we're going to be kicking off at the end of the summer. So just kind of getting a feel for that. So if anybody's interested in being involved in that, just check out our chamber information, and just like this one, you can register that way.
Chris, I got one question for you. What would the impact be for a 529 on your FAFSA? So if you had that in mom and dad's name versus having it in grandpa's name.
Yeah, so thank you, Michael, for the question. I think this chart actually helps with that If a parent owns the 529, it's the 5.64% that gets counted on the FAFSA. And if grandma and grandpa hold the 529, it's 0 at the very bottom there. It used to be that grandma and grandpa would have to report distributions 2 years later, and it would ding the student at that 50% mark. But in December of last year, they completely eliminated that part. So grandma and grandpa are completely 0 across the board, which is really cool. Yeah. Did that help, Michael?
Yeah, absolutely. You kind of covered that the first time. Just was
That's okay.
with that, but yeah, that's kind of a big deal because now it would have less effect on your FAFSAs as far as that goes. Is just keeping it in grandma and grandpa's name, which most of the time they're the ones that are making the contributions anyway, because mom and dad are still trying to get their retirement together.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The only big thing with that is that you have to be the account owner and the contributor to get that state tax deduction for the state of New York. So sometimes what we'll see is that mom and dad will open a 529 to get the deduction, and grandma and grandpa will open the 529. You can do that. You can have multiple accounts for the same child, and they can both get that state tax deduction. So that's another option as well. And it's still really small percentages that actually count on the FAFSA. So that's good news.
Chris, can you still transfer the balance of the account to various people? So for instance, if I were to have my parents open one and my kids fortunately didn't need it, they could pass it on to my niece or nephew?
Yep, exactly. Yeah, it just has to follow the family line of the beneficiary
Right.
up to first cousin. So definitely niece and nephew.
They'll definitely need it. My kids are getting full rides, so it'll work out that way.
They're part of the 0.3%. I love it.
Exactly. Somebody's
My
got to
kids
make
are
that
too.
up, right?
That's right. Got to be part of that percentage for sure.
So, Chris, I have a question. It's not me, but I belong to the chamber, and I have, this is a suppose I belong to the chamber. I have kids, and my parents, their grandparents want to open this account. They can get that break because I'm a member of the chamber.
So technically, grandma and grandpa are not members, right? So
right.
they would have to open it with a financial advisor
Okay.
or on the Vanguard plan separately.
Okay.
The group number is supposed to be tied to anyone who's part of that group. So unfortunately, it doesn't extend out to extra family members.
Okay.
Does just belong to those people within the group. And usually we see it with companies, right, where employees of the company are included. So it's a little bit easier to conceptualize that
Okay.
grandma and grandpa aren't employees.
Right.
Yeah, sorry, Robin. I wish we could.
No, I was just curious because in theory, they'd be benefiting the same child as, the employee. So I was just curious. Yeah.
So in those situations, if they're able to save the 4.5% up front, it might be better to open the group plan as mom and dad, right? And get that benefit instead of grandma and grandpa.
Gotcha.
We
Yeah.
do sell individual chamber memberships.
Oh,
Oh, yeah,
Grandma and
correct me if I'm
grandpa
wrong.
could
I think
become
they're
members.
$70 a year.
there you
I don't know if
go.
that's worth the savings or not, but
If they're doing 10,000 as a couple, that'd save them roughly $450 plus give them the state deduction. So it'd be worth the membership. But
We
two
could
questions.
build your chamber membership big time, Eric.
Two questions real quick.
Oh, sure.
One is like, just hypothetically, let's say I have kids, they're ready to go into school. And I haven't done a 529. I can still open it, put the money in, put it into something really secure and safe. Even if part of it's gonna come out the next week to at least get the state deduction and all those things, right?
Yes. Yep. So you can put it in a money market, for example, which is cash equivalent. And we do have families do that. They'll put the money into the 529. They have to pay a tuition bill as well. 7 days later, that's what the hold is. They can pull the money back out and pay the tuition bill, but they still get that state tax deduction. So that's a nice benefit.
Okay.
Yeah.
I already forgot my second question, so we're good.
Cool. If you think of it later, I'm around.
All right.
Here in my home office all the time.
Feel free to email it over to me, Michael, if you remember.
All right.
And if I could give a word of advice to anyone that has kids coming up, my oldest, she just finished her first year at Buffalo State College. She took a ton of courses in high school, credited courses. So when she graduated from high school, she had an associate's degree. So when she got to Buff State, and along the way, she also listened to me as I hounded them, you know, debt free, debt free, debt free, debt free, scholarship, scholarship, scholarship. They actually listened. So she applied for all kinds of scholarships. Not only have we not paid 1 penny for her first year, but Buffalo State sent her 4 checks throughout the year, averaging about $850 to $150 to $1,500 to $2,000. They were paying her to go to school. So I'm very proud of that.
Yeah.
And hopefully the second one will follow in her shoes. But still, you know, I never know, because like the oldest one, she's going to be going into grad school soon, because she did have all the credits. She actually will be graduating next year already with her bachelor's. So
Awesome.
just not that I pushed her, but, you know, encourage your kids to do that stuff, because in the end, it makes a huge difference in costs.
That's amazing. I'm so excited to hear that, Danielle.
Yeah.
I hope it's that way for my kids.
Yeah, I'll echo what Mike Marsh was saying too. I have a client that does monthly contributions, but every time a bill comes from the college, they're helping their child student out, and they'll put money into it. We have it sit there for, like you said, 7 to 10 days, and then it comes back out. And then actually the 529 JP Morgan will actually send the check right to the school. So as long as they have the student ID number, we have a ACH link to your checking account. Money comes right over, sits there, and then goes over, and then the client then gets the up to $5,000 or $10,000 in tax savings through New York State. So we always tell clients, if you're gonna help your child pay for college, would you mind if it sat for 10 days in a 529? I mean, granted, it may or may not be the greatest thing for JP Morgan, but they also make monthly contributions as well. Idea being, don't think just because they're in college and we haven't done the savings that there aren't still some advantages to it as well, as far as going through the program and get the savings. But at the same time, it encourages them to just save for college overall. But when the actual bills come, they can add additional monies as they're getting the bill.
And we don't mind, Michael. They can park it, take it, it's fine. Totally acceptable.
It's like a little bit of a loophole, but it's the requirements that are set up through JP Morgan and New York State. So might as well take advantage of them and get the tax savings.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, once again, thank you guys so much. This was, at least for me personally, it was extremely beneficial. I appreciate the time and coming on board.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me on this morning, guys. So nice to meet all of you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Appreciate it.
Have a great day, everybody. I can't get off this there. Why can't I stop this stupid thing?